Tennessee whiskey. It's known worldwide as a symbol of American quality and passion. 146 years ago, Charles Nelson opened and ran one of the nation's largest whiskey distilleries right here in the heart of Tennessee, and he cemented the name of Tennessee whiskey. His distillery was located right in the heart of Greenbrier, Tennessee, a small country town that lies just outside of Nashville. Today, the Nelson name is in the care of Charlie and Andy, Charles's descendants. Together, they work to resurrect the family namesake and continue the honored traditions of Tennessee whiskey. Born in a small northern German village on July 4th, 1835, Charles Nelson was born into the candle and soap business of his family. In 1850, his father sold the family business so that the family could set sail for America. But the journey would prove to have its own hardships, and it would turn tragic. The New York-destined ship encountered a strong storm, and several passengers were washed overboard.
One of those passengers, unfortunately, was the father, John Philip Nelson. So with all the gold weighing him down, that was it for him. He just sank to the bottom and was done.
The family arrived penniless, and Charles had to take up the mantle of providing for his family.
Basically, he found work at a soap and candle factory in New York, worked there for a couple years with his little brother, and then moved the family up to Cincinnati, where he became a butcher.
As a butcher in Cincinnati, Charles learned the trade of the grocery business, and before the breakout of the Civil War, moved himself down to Nashville and opened his own grocery business.
About 1858, he moved to Nashville to start his own grocery business down on what's now 2nd Avenue. Back then it was known as Market Street. It was based really on the foundation of his 3 best-selling products. So those were his coffee, his meats, and his whiskey.
Whiskey ended up becoming Charles's driving product, and upon deciding to focus on that, he let go of his meats and his coffee and purchased a distillery in the Greenbrier, Tennessee area in 1870. From there, his expansion began.
50 acres that included the spring and some distilling equipment. And over time, he added more property around that site. Eventually, over time, they had 970 acres that were owned by Nelson's distillery.
So he had pretty great success in that. He bought a patent for improved distillation from a guy named Henry Kirk from Springfield, Tennessee, a neighboring town of Greenbrier, and he expanded the capacity of his distillery. So by about 1885, he was selling 380,000 gallons a year. That's nearly 2 million bottles.
Charles Nelson had built the foundation of Tennessee whiskey. It was here, on the rolling bars of the Long Branch Creek in Lake Greenbrier, that his prized No. 5 distillery stood. All that's left today is a spring house where natural water flowed down to feed the distillery through a man-made dam. The standing grain house is still on its original foundation, and it was where ingredients in empty barrels could be stored but not in use. The most notable landmark there is a 4-story steel barrel house. On the outside, windows still hang onto their panes and rust clings to the walls. On the inside, the wooden struts still remain. It was here that barrels were raised and lowered by hand or cattle and left to age through the season. The distillery was a large source of economic prosperity in Greenbrier. Many came from miles to seek work, and the distillery created jobs for masons, timber workers, farmers, and as the story goes, it brought the railroads to Greenbrier as well.
Charles Nelson's Greenbrier Distillery was one of the biggest economic boom to Greenbrier.
Charles Nelson, after a lifetime of hard work, passed away on December 13, 1891, and his wife Louisa assumed ownership of the distillery, becoming one of the only women ever to do so. Unfortunately, in 1909, statewide prohibition was enacted, and Nelson's was forced to close its doors. Unfortunately, because of its large size, the distillery was never able to recover. On a hot summer day in 2006, a father and his two sons took a trip to Greenbrier to visit a local butcher. It was there that the two sons would find out their family heritage and realize a dream.
Saw this old barrel warehouse still standing, the original spring still running. We drank from the spring, and then Chuck, the butcher, sent us to a nearby historical society where Sheila Watts was, and there were a couple of original bottles with our name. Beautiful bottles. Just about every hair on my body stood up, and Andy and I looked at each other and we're just like, man, this is what we're here to do. So we've been working on resurrecting the company ever since.
Today, the brothers Nelson have revived the distillery right in the heart of Marathon Village in Nashville. Together, they're working to bring the Nelson name back to life nearly 110 years after Charles's distillery ended its run. And they've shared this Nelson pride and soul with those who seek excellence and passion in their whiskey.
Charles Nelson effectively helped create the category of Tennessee whiskey. So that's something we're very, very proud of. And it's, the family name and having our name on a bottle of whiskey. And that's something we're very proud of. And they, want to uphold the standards that he set forth back 150 years ago.
We were basically moved by a moment in time and fell in love with the history and heritage of our family and the business. And so, more than selling a product or selling a brand, we're sharing our story. And so I think that it's a story that we fell in love with, and it's inspired us every day. And I think that it inspires other people sometimes.